Have you ever looked in the mirror after 40 and felt like a stranger was looking back at you? You worked hard for years. You built a career, maybe a family, maybe a name for yourself. But somewhere along the way, the fire started to fade and the mornings began to feel heavy. This lesson will help you improve your English while you think about real life. Because the words are simple, but the meaning runs deep. Today we talk about something most men never learn until it is almost too late in life. This is not about big dreams or loud motivation, and it has nothing to do with waking up one day and suddenly becoming a new person. What we are talking about is something much quieter than that. Small actions, repeated daily, outlast any burst of motivation. By the end of this lesson, you will stop waiting for the right mood to start. You will trust a small habit that works even on your worst days, even when nobody is watching, even when you do not feel like a hero. Motivation is a spark. It burns bright for a moment, then it dies out fast. You feel it after a good talk, a good video, a good night of sleep. Then Monday comes and the spark is gone. Discipline is different. Discipline does not care how you feel. It does not wait for the perfect morning. It shows up anyway, tired or not, in the mood or not. That is the real difference between the man who talks about change and the man who becomes it. 6 quiet lessons stand between you and a calmer, stronger version of yourself. Not one of them is loud, and not one of them will ever trend online. But each one, done daily, will rebuild you from the inside. A new personality is not required here, and neither is a dramatic story to tell people at dinner. What you actually need is one small action, done again tomorrow and again the day after that, until it stops feeling like effort and simply becomes who you are. Let's begin with the first one. Rule 1. Wake up before your excuses do. There is a kind of man who plans his morning the night before, then loses the plan the moment his eyes open. The alarm rings and the mind starts making deals. 5 more minutes, just this once. Tomorrow I will start fresh. This is the first battle of the day, and most men lose it, without even noticing they are fighting. The weak version of a man argues with the alarm clock every single morning, and every single morning he loses a small piece of trust in himself. The strong version does not argue. He simply moves, refusing to wait for the feeling of readiness, because that feeling never comes on command. Think of an old carpenter who spent 40 years building houses. He once said that a man who waits to feel motivated before picking up his tools will build nothing. A man who picks up his tools first, motivation or not, will build a house by winter. That is the whole secret hiding inside one simple choice. Feeling brave is not a requirement for getting up. Simply get up, and the bravery follows, a few minutes later, quiet and unannounced. Try this tomorrow. The second your eyes open, count to 5, then move your feet to the floor before your mind can start negotiating. It sounds too small to matter, but that assumption is wrong. Every day you win that first fight, you prove something to yourself that no speech, no video, and no book can prove for you. You proved it with your own body, in your own room, before the world was even awake. Rule 2. Guard the first hour like it is the only hour. After 40, time starts to move faster, and most men do not notice how much of it disappears into small, meaningless choices. The phone gets checked before the feet even touch the floor. The news gets read before the mind is even awake. By the time real work begins, the best hours of focus are already gone, spent on things that will not matter by the end of the week. A weak morning looks busy but produces nothing. A strong morning looks slow but builds something real. Picture a farmer who wakes before sunrise, not because he loves the cold, but because he understands that the first hour decides the whole day. Messages wait. The field comes first, because he looks at what needs attention before the world starts pulling him in 10 directions. That same principle works for any man in any life. The first hour was never meant for scrolling, and it was never meant for arguing in your head about the news. It is for the one thing that actually moves your life forward, whether that is your body, your work, your family, or your mind. Protect that hour the way you would protect your own front door. Lock out the noise. Let in the work. If you give the first hour to distraction, you will spend the rest of the day trying to catch up to a life that is always one step ahead of you. But if you give that first hour to something real, everything after it feels lighter, because the hardest part is already behind you. Rule 3. Move your body before you judge your mind. Somewhere after 40, many men start to believe that the body is finished changing, that the years of building strength are behind them, and that all that is left is slow decline. This belief is comfortable, and it is also false. The body still listens. It still adapts. What changes is not the body's ability to grow, but the man's willingness to ask it to. A tired mind will always find reasons to skip movement. It will say there is no time, no energy, no point. But movement is not a reward you earn after you feel good. Movement is often the thing that creates the good feeling in the first place. Think of a quiet man who walks for 20 minutes every single morning, rain or shine, simply because he decided years ago that his body deserved that much respect. No marathons, no heavy weights, just movement every day, without excuse, without waiting for motivation to arrive first. Over months, his back stopped aching, his mind became clearer, his mood steadied. None of that happened because of one great workout. It happened because of hundreds of small, boring, repeated ones. If you wait until your mind feels strong to move your body, you may wait forever, because the mind often follows the body, not the other way around. Stand up, walk, stretch, lift something heavy, even if it is small. The goal is not to become an athlete overnight. The goal is to remind your body every single day that you have not given up on it. If you have been sitting with this lesson so far, take 1 minute right now and share where you are watching from and what age you are starting this discipline at. Writing it down for yourself, even in a comment, makes the promise real. Rule 4. Finish what you start, even the small things. There is a quiet danger in a man's life that nobody warns him about, and it has nothing to do with failure. The real danger is the habit of almost finishing things. The book almost read, the project almost done, the conversation almost had. Each unfinished thing seems small on its own, but together they build a kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. A weak pattern collects half-finished tasks like souvenirs, carrying them everywhere, never putting any of them down. A strong pattern picks one thing, finishes it completely, and only then moves to the next. Think of an old shoemaker who trained his sons with one rule above all others. Never leave a shoe on the table overnight unfinished, even if it is late, even if you are tired. He said a man who leaves work unfinished trains his own mind to expect defeat. A man who finishes, even small things, trains his mind to expect victory. Being perfect is not the goal here. Closing loops is. Reply to the message instead of leaving it unread for 3 days. Put the tool back instead of leaving it out. Finish the sentence you started saying instead of trailing off. None of these things are dramatic, but every finished task is a small deposit into a bank account of self-trust, and every unfinished one is a small withdrawal. After 40, that account matters more than ever, because a man who trusts himself moves through the world differently than one who does not. Rule 5. Speak to yourself the way a good coach speaks to his best player. Listen closely to the voice inside your own head for 1 full day, and you may be shocked at how it talks to you. It calls you lazy for resting. It calls you weak for struggling. It reminds you of every mistake from the last 20 years, usually right before you try something new. Many men would never let a stranger talk to their son the way they talk to themselves every morning, A harsh inner voice does not build discipline. It slowly destroys the will to try again. A firm inner voice is different from a cruel one. And the difference matters more than most men realize. A good coach is not soft, and he refuses to pretend everything is fine when it clearly is not. Yet he also holds back from attacking the player after a mistake. He says, "That one is gone. Get ready for the next one." Picture a boxing coach in a small gym, standing beside a fighter who just lost a round badly. The coach does not scream insults. He looks the fighter in the eyes and says one thing: "You know what to fix. Fix it now." That single sentence carries more discipline than an hour of self-punishment ever could. Start speaking to yourself the same way. When you fail at your morning routine, do not call yourself worthless. Say, "That one is gone. Get ready for the next one." Nothing weak lives in that sentence. It is simply how strong men actually talk, quietly, firmly, without drama, focused only on the very next action in front of them. Rule 6. Protect 1 hour of silence every single day. Modern life fills every gap with noise. The television plays in the background, even when nobody is watching. The phone buzzes, even when there is nothing urgent. Many men after 40 realize they have not sat in true silence for years, and they do not even notice the loss, because noise has quietly become the normal state of their days. But silence is where the mind repairs itself. It is where a man hears his own thoughts clearly enough to know what he actually wants, instead of what the noise around him is telling him to want. Without that hour, a man drifts through decisions made by habit, by advertising, by other people's opinions, never really choosing anything for himself. Picture an old fisherman who sits by the water every evening for exactly 1 hour, without his phone, without music, sometimes without even fishing. His neighbors thought it was strange. A grown man just sitting and staring at the water, but he said that hour was the only time, all day, he could hear himself think clearly. Everything else, the work, the family, the errands, became easier to manage because that one quiet hour kept his mind steady underneath it all. Water and a fishing rod are not required. What you need is 1 hour, or even 20 minutes to start, where you sit without a screen, without a task, and simply let your own thoughts arrive. It will feel uncomfortable at first, because silence often shows you the things you have been avoiding. Sit with it anyway. That discomfort is the sound of your mind finally being heard again after years of being drowned out. Give it a week before you judge whether it works, because the first few sessions of true silence often feel like the hardest part of the entire day, and that difficulty usually fades faster than most men expect. Rule 7. Choose your circle the way you choose your food. A man becomes, slowly and quietly, like the 5 people he spends the most time with. Nobody tells him this directly, but he can feel it if he pays attention. Spend a month around men who complain about everything and do nothing about it, and complaining starts to feel normal. Spend a month around men who wake early, work steadily, and speak with respect, and that steadiness starts to feel normal instead. After 40, many men keep old friendships out of loyalty alone, even when those friendships quietly pull them backward. Cutting people off coldly is not the point here. The point is being honest with yourself about who feeds your discipline and who slowly drains it. Picture 2 brothers raised in the same house, by the same parents, with the same start in life. One spent his evenings with friends who mocked ambition and called hard work foolish. The other found 2 or 3 quiet men who valued the same steady habits he was trying to build. 10 years later, their lives looked nothing alike, not because of luck, but because of who sat across from them at the table most often. A large circle is not necessary. The right one is what matters. Look honestly at the people you speak with most. Ask which ones make discipline feel normal and which ones make it feel foolish. Then spend a little more time near the first group and a little less near the second. One small choice at a time. Rule 8. Track the streak, not the mood. Feelings change 10 times before lunch. Trusting your mood to decide whether you keep a habit is like trusting the weather to decide whether you go to work. Some days will feel motivated. Most days will not. If the habit only survives on good days, it will die within a few weeks, because good days are rare and unpredictable. A steady man builds a different system. He never asks himself each morning whether he feels like doing this today. Instead, he asks a simpler question. Did I do it yesterday? And will I do it again today, regardless of feeling? Picture a man who marks a simple calendar on his wall. One small mark for every day he kept his morning habit. Nothing more complicated than that. The mark is never judged by how strong or tired he felt that day. Only one thing gets judged, whether the action happened. After a few months, the wall fills with marks, and something interesting happens inside him. He no longer relies on motivation at all, because the streak itself has become the motivation. Breaking it feels wrong. Not because of guilt, but because he has built proof, on paper, that he is a man who shows up. Start your own version today. It does not need to be complicated. A simple mark, a checkbox, a note on your phone. What matters is that you stop asking your feelings for permission and start asking the streak for accountability instead. Rule 9. Rebuild slower than you broke down. Most men do not fall apart in a single day. The habits slip one at a time, over months, sometimes years, until one morning a man looks around and barely recognizes the shape of his own life. That is a hard truth, but it holds a hidden gift inside it. If decline happens slowly, rebuilding can happen the same way, one honest step at a time, without needing some dramatic turning point to start. The trap many men fall into is trying to fix everything at once. New diet, new gym plan, new sleep schedule, new mindset, all starting on the same Monday. Within 2 weeks, the whole plan collapses under its own weight, and the man feels worse than before he started. A wiser approach picks one habit, keeps it small enough to survive a bad day, and holds it steady for a few weeks before adding the next one. Picture a man rebuilding an old wooden fence around his land, board by board, week by week, never rushing the whole job in one weekend. Neighbors driving past see slow, steady progress instead of a chaotic mess abandoned halfway through. That fence stands for years because it was built patiently, not because it was built quickly. Apply that same patience to yourself. Do not try to become a completely different man by Friday. Choose the one habit from these lessons that speaks loudest to you right now, and hold it steady for 30 days before reaching for the next board. Rule 10. Keep a promise to yourself before you keep one to anyone else. Men after 40 are often excellent at keeping promises to other people. They show up for their children, their bosses, their friends, rarely missing a commitment made to someone else. But the promises made quietly to themselves are treated very differently, broken without guilt, forgotten by lunchtime, never even written down in the first place. This double standard slowly teaches a man that his own word does not matter much, even while his word to everyone else matters completely. That belief seeps into everything else he does, quietly lowering his own sense of worth. Picture a craftsman who tells a customer their table will be finished Friday and works through the night to make it happen, no matter what. Now picture that same craftsman telling himself he will wake at 6, then sleeping until 8 without a second thought. The gap between those two standards is where a man's confidence slowly leaks out. Close that gap. Treat the promise you make to yourself in the quiet of your own mind with the same seriousness you give a promise, made out loud to another person. If you tell yourself you will walk for 15 minutes, walk for 15 minutes. Even if nobody will ever know whether you did or not, especially because nobody will ever know. That is exactly why it matters so much. Rule 11. Measure the year in seasons, not in single days. One bad morning can feel like proof that nothing is working, that the whole plan has failed, that a man should simply give up and go back to old habits. This kind of thinking judges an entire year by a single cloudy afternoon, and it is one of the fastest ways to quit something that was actually working just fine, long before it had the chance to show real results. A farmer does not judge his harvest by one rainy Tuesday in April. He judges it across the whole season, expecting some storms, some dry spells, and some perfect sunny days along the way. Discipline works the same way. There will be mornings you sleep through the alarm. There will be weeks that fall apart because of illness, travel, or simple exhaustion. None of that erases the months of steady mornings that came before it. Picture an older man looking back on 10 years of a quiet morning walk, knowing full well that he missed dozens of days along the way. Sick days, storm days, grief-filled days. Those gaps are not remembered as failure. What stays in his memory is the season as a whole, and the season was strong. Judge yourself the same way. Do not throw away a good season because of one difficult week. Step back, look at the last 3 months instead of the last 3 days, and let that wider view decide whether the plan is actually working. You now have 11 quiet rules, and none of them require talent, money, or youth. Wake before your excuses do. Guard the first hour like it is the only hour. Move your body before you judge your mind. Finish what you start, even the small things. Speak to yourself the way a good coach speaks to his best player. Protect 1 hour of silence every day. Choose your circle the way you choose your food. Track the streak, not the mood. Rebuild slower than you broke down. Keep a promise to yourself before you keep one to anyone else. Measure the year in seasons, not in single days. Not one of these rules will make headlines, and not one of them is exciting enough for a highlight reel. But together, repeated daily, they quietly rebuild a man from the inside, long after motivation has come and gone 100 times. Small actions, repeated daily, outlast any burst of motivation. Read that sentence again, because it is the whole lesson in a single line. 40 is not an ending. It is the point where loud dreams finally give way to quiet discipline, and quiet discipline is what actually lasts. Changing everything today is not required of you. You only need to choose one rule from this lesson and keep it for the next 7 days. That is enough to start proving something to yourself that no one else can prove for you. If one of these 11 rules landed hardest for you, write it in the comments below so other men walking this same road can find it too, and tell them exactly which one you are starting with this week. Think back to the man in the mirror from the start of this lesson, the one who looked like a stranger. He is not gone. He is simply waiting for you to show up the same way, every single day, until the reflection feels familiar again. That change will not happen this week, and it will not happen because of one video, one book, or one burst of inspiration. It happens in the quiet repetition of ordinary mornings, the kind nobody applauds, the kind that never make it onto a highlight reel. Somewhere out there, another man your age is reading this same lesson right now, deciding whether to act on it or simply nod along and quietly forget it by tomorrow morning. The difference between the two of you, 5 years from now, will not come from talent or luck. It will come from which one of you actually picked one rule and held on to it. Keep listening, practice English a little more each day, and keep growing, one quiet habit at a time.